And we'll be getting into some NFL football. That's what we're going to get into. We actually have quite a lot, and I want to apologize in advance for these terrible transitions between episodes. So, apologize for that. But anyways, moving on from that weird, awkward moment, the Chiefs are headlining the offseason, which is not really a surprise, but also very interesting with what has been happening. As an optimistic mindset has been grown in Kansas City with the hopes of Chris Jones anticipating his return back to the Chiefs, as he has made it very, very clear that he wants to return back to Kansas City to play with the likes of L'Jarius Sneed and Patrick Mahomes, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Pacheco, Patrick Mahomes, and Travis Kelce. And if they don't sign him, which would be a very much shocker considering the fact that he's made it clear that he will want to return back to Kansas City. Well, it's just going to be interesting, to say the least, on if he will actually get the contract he will be wanting to stay in Kansas City. The team released Marquez Valdez-Scantling to save $12 million in cap space, which comes as no surprise due to his lack of consistency and simply just not being used in a great part of the wide receiver depth chart. Quarterback L'Jarius Sneed received a $19.8 million franchise tag amid trade rumors among the NFL. Now, he did get the franchise tag, but that does not stop him from potentially being traded or going elsewhere in the league, whether it's the AFC, staying in the division, staying in the conference, or ultimately just going to the NFC. Now, some potential trade candidates per Bleacher Report include the Bengals, who lack depth in their secondary, and just their general defense was lacking this past season, as well as having cap space available. The Lions, who also have cap space available, have the cornerback position as a position of need, and the pass defense, even though they did get as far as an NFC championship appearance, that's the one thing that they lacked, especially in the latter half of blowing their big 20-point lead to the 49ers. The Texans, who are still growing with the newfound superstars and Will Anderson Jr. and Defensive Rookie of the Year Will Anderson Jr. and Offensive Rookie of the Year C.J. Stroud. They are still looking to improve their pass defense with the potential of losing two key quarterbacks to free agency, and they also have cap space. As for the Rams, Los Angeles Rams, there was no discussion of any cap space available, but they still need to work on their pass defense, and they have future potential with guys like Puka Nacua, simply reviving that offense with that superstar potential. Eagles, Vic Fangio might be the reason why, with becoming the defensive coordinator, as well as potentially being an upgrade over James Bradbury at the position for the Philadelphia Eagles. For the 49ers, who's the last candidate, give them that upgraded secondary and give them maybe even another run at the Super Bowl and hopefully win it with Brock Purdy, Nick Bosa, and so on. Now for the remainder of this, besides NFL draft, to talk about some rule changes and updates, we got a lot of releases and some rumors going on, as the Falcons released their tight end 2, Mr. Jonnu Smith, to save $6.5 million in cap space. Now, my thoughts on this, I don't really care because the Atlanta Falcons, they suck anyway, because they really made it clear-cut that Kyle Pitts, who has been and will be their number one tight end target at the position. The 28-year-old Smith just completed his 7th NFL season and first with the Falcons after the New England Patriots traded him to Atlanta for a 7th-round pick last March. He notched career highs in both catches at 50 and receiving yards at 582, while also adding 3 touchdowns. His receiving yardage mark ranked 3rd on Atlanta behind wide receiver Drake London at 905 and fellow tight end Kyle Pitts at 667. Per Over the Cap, the Falcons will save $6.5 million in cap space while taking on $2.5 million in dead money. From the Falcons' perspective, this feels like a renewed focus on getting the most out of Kyle Pitts, whose massive potential has never been realized in the NFL since going for the overall in 2021 draft. He is now the clear tight end one again, with no one breathing down his neck in the tight end room. It's probably a good thing that they did this, but then again, it's also a good thing that they fired Arthur Smith. It's a good thing that they did this so it doesn't put as much pressure to basically grow his potential as a star for the Falcons and Kyle Pitts. And the firing of Arthur Smith, who apparently did not know how to use Bijan Robinson and did not know how to use Kyle Pitts, was fired, which helped with, I think, it's Raheem Morris as their new head coach. That should be very, very interesting to see how that plays out. But yeah, it's just kind of funny and interesting how he was drafted all the way. It's crazy to think that Kyle Pitts was drafted all the way back in 2021, and he hasn't fully reached that potential as a star in the NFL. He's slowly gotten there the past few years, but I feel like he should have hit that that spot of potential and grow upon it at least a year or two ago. So, yeah. Moving on, the Vikings, in a surprising move to me and one of my best friends, Mr. Brendan Price. The Vikings released a veteran in the form of a running back named Alexander Madison, who will be set to enter free agency. Now, where will he go? I don't know, but since the Cowboys are in need of a running back if they don't look to go to the draft for one or look to re-sign Pollard, look at Alexander Madison, man. Or look at Derrick Henry, who we'll discuss in a few moments. But yeah. The Buccaneers made a very surprising move to one like myself by releasing two-time Pro Bowl linebacker Shaquille Barrett, as he is set to become a free agent for the second time in 4 years. Per Adam Schefter, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are releasing Barrett before he's owed $15.04 million option bonus next month. He originally joined the Bucs as a free agent in March 2019. He signed a one-year deal after spending the first 4 seasons of his career with the Denver Broncos. And that contract turned out to be a steal for the Buccaneers as he led the NFL with 19.5 sacks and finished 4th in the Defensive Player of the Year voting 2019. He played on the franchise tag in 2020. Following the Super Bowl victory with Tom Brady in 2020, he signed a 4-year, $72 million deal in March 2021. That first season ended up going well with a team high 10 sacks in 15 games during the 2021 campaign. But his 2022 season was ended after 8 games when he suffered a torn Achilles in a loss to the Baltimore Ravens. His Tampa restructured his deal shortly before the start of last season, freeing up $10.5 million in cap space, and this move lowered his 2024 base salary to $1.21 million. Poor Spotrac. The Bucs will be on the hook for a $26.7 million dead cap charge if they don't want to use the post-June 1st cut designation. They decided to use the post-June 1st designation. Barrett's dead cap number will be $9.3 million, and they'll save $4.9 million against the cap. Tampa already has $43.7 million in cap space going into the offseason. The team does have a lot of big free agent decisions to make, including potentially resigning guys like their quarterback and Baker Mayfield, and hopefully bringing back wide receiver Mike Evans if he does not explore free agency. Barrett was able to stay healthy the last 18 of 19 games that they started between the regular season and playoffs, but he has not returned to pre-injury form, and it'll be interesting to see where he will be going next with making his exit from Tampa Bay. I guess all I gotta say is that a lot of these guys that are getting released, the Cowboys can make moves for, but apparently Jerry Jones doesn't think much about that, barely makes moves, and plus they're a negative cap space, so it really won't matter unless he wants a cheap one-year deal. So the Commanders have released their tight end, Logan Thomas, a veteran, which saves them $13 million in cap space, which puts them at the $90 million mark to spend in free agency this upcoming off-season. Now it's great to see, since they're a terrible, terrible team and need to make improvements and add depth and add a lot of star caliber players to their squad on both sides of the ball, with looking to pick up a new quarterback to replace Sam Howell in the draft, making up some ground with upgrading their offensive line, who like Sam Howell gets sacked like 50 or 60 times, which is crazy to me. And then from there, just generally upgrading the defense, maybe how do I say this? Oh no, I shouldn't. Sorry, I feel like I'm just going on a random place, but just simply with all that space, look to get a quarterback in the draft, and from there maybe look to add some upgrade some depth pieces with the rest of your draft picks, as well as signing just simply upgrading the offensive line, getting another tight end, and upgrading all their defense, because their defense really needs it. Sorry. Anyways, moving on from that, the Patriots released J.C. Jackson. The veteran cornerback was set to receive a $14.4 million payment under his contract. However, this release puts New England at $101.7 million in cap space, which I believe is the most in cap space to spend this free agency. So it'll be interesting to see what they'll do with all that money that they have, with having the, I believe, number 3 overall pick, and just simply having the figure out your quarterback situation, a lot of just simply upgrading and getting all that depth that you need for the upcoming season. Speaking of that, the Patriots are heavily leaning towards a quarterback with the number 3 pick. And is this their way of saying that they could be moving on from Mac Jones? To keep it simple, straightforward, yes, I would like to think so. As the main decision makers for the team are reportedly keen on selecting a quarterback with the number 3 pick in the 2024 draft. According to Jeff Howe, the Athletic, there is a, quote, strong sense that the Pats are heavily leaning toward a quarterback near the top of the draft. Howe and Chad Graff of the Athletic added that the Patriots really want a quarterback at number 3, and most within the organization seem to be on the same page regarding the idea of finding a new franchise player. Now, the question remains, should they move forward with that plan, as they will likely land whoever is remaining between Caleb Williams, Drake May, James Daniels, and even consideration of J.J. McCarthy and Bo Nix. So it'll be interesting to see how they use Mac Jones. Is it going to be a sign and trade? What are they going to do with him? Are they going to try to get him to be like a veteran presence type of guy, or I don't know. But Mac Jones does not need to come to Dallas. So yeah, I just got to say, I wish I could confirm this, but all I got to say is 2 things. One, they should move on from him and trade him to a team that needs a quarterback, whoever it may be. And 2, pick up someone. I would say look at getting Jaden Daniels. Jaden Daniels would be the keen guy for them. It's just he's kind of like a mixture of Randall Cunningham and Lamar Jackson. You just look at the highlights. He made a lot of crazy plays, if I'm being 100% honest. But yeah, the reason I say it is because I want Caleb Williams to go number 2 to Washington because of Cliff Kingsbury being the new offensive coordinator in Washington, but he's more likely to go to 1st overall. Drake May, I just don't see it happening, and then maybe consider like J.J. McCarthy. I would say either Jaden Daniels or J.J. McCarthy needs to go to the Patriots. It's just looking at it in their roster and seeing how well both those guys play, and also with J.J. McCarthy being nearly at home, even though he would have to go to Detroit to be at home since he played at Michigan. That's the closest team he has to home besides Detroit, who has Jared Goff right now. So, and also mention another thing is that Derrick Henry has no plans to sign the franchise tag with the Titans, and the question remains who will sign him. I want to say the Cowboys, but knowing Jerry Jones and how the Cowboys are every offseason the past few years, how delusional us Cowboys fans are, it ain't going to happen. some questions to consider before we continue moving on. Um, will Najee Harris be returning to the Steelers or hitting free agency? As the general manager of the Steelers, Omar Khan, has revealed that the team has yet to make a decision regarding the fifth-year option of running back Najee Harris, and they have until the first week of May to make the decision, which he explained per Josh Alper Pro Football Talk. The option is worth $6.7 million and must be decided upon by May 2nd. Harris recorded 1,035 yards and 8 touchdowns on 255 rush attempts during the 2023 season. Harris has surpassed the 1,000-yard threshold in each of his 3 NFL seasons, although his productivity hasn't always matched his usage. As after making the Pro Bowl as a rookie by averaging 70.6 yards per game, he's averaged just 60.9 yards each week in 2 years since. In fact, he owns a career average of just 3.9 yards per carry. Now, when it comes to this, I'm expecting and kind of hoping that the Steelers do pick up that fifth-year option and keep him. But if he doesn't go up, but if he ends up entering free agency, I say he goes to another AFC team. I would say NFC, but I just don't see it happening. I don't know. I would say maybe the Bengals. No, there's probably I don't know. There's some good options, but I can't really think of any super crazy teams that he would go to. Maybe the Ravens would be an option, or I would say the Bills, but no, the Ravens, or I don't know, Broncos. I don't know. I understand making teams at this point. Just kind of wish I would think about questions like this sooner. Then something that's interesting is that apparently there have been talks about Aaron Jones, the running back of the Packers, potentially getting a contract pay cut, getting it restructured. And who's to say that going into his final year, he gets released by the Packers? So, curious to see if the Packers will be stupid enough to get rid of Aaron Jones, especially after they demolished the Dallas Cowboys in the NFC wildcard game this past season. And to end for this part of the NFL news, before we get into the NFL draft news, Kevin Byard, the veteran of the Philadelphia Eagles, has been cut by the team as a veteran safety after just one season. His time of 1 year comes to an end as this cut and move presents the Eagles saving $13.7 million in NFL salary cap space. So, interesting moves. A lot of releases and cuts. And I'm pretty sure we could see a lot of these players moving on to different teams and a whole new-looking offenses and defenses with a lot of these players moving. So, it's going to be an interesting offseason with all these cap space money to spend. So, for the NFL draft, there was a video of T'Vondre Sweat, the Texas defensive lineman, running a 5.27 second 40-yard dash at 366 pounds at this year's NFL Combine. Now, if I'm being honest, knowing that I'm about half his size at about 190 pounds, I would probably be slower. I'd probably run a 5.7 or 5.8 if I'm being completely honest. I know I would go past 5 minutes. Not 5 minutes. Whoa, I'm not that slow. But I'd probably reach 5.5. I can't do 5.27. I'd probably 5.55 or something. I don't know. But it was interesting as Sweat called a shot at his combine press comments earlier before this, telling reporters that he was going to, quote, shock them with his 40-yard dash. Sweat, who did not run a second 40-yard dash, posted a 1.80 10-yard split during his run. It was an impressive performance for the big man, who made headlines after he refrained from weighing in at the Senior Bowl. All turned out well, though, as his official weigh-in at the Combine showed that he's fairly close to his collegiate playing weight, at 362 per the Texas roster. Curious to see how well this stuff like this goes in terms of the eyes of different teams for Sweat, and simply seeing where he goes. I would love to see him go to the Cowboys, but beggars can't be choosers, and it's only a wish at this point. Caleb Williams had some interesting words, saying that he wasn't going to do medical examinations with all the teams, and it turns out the interpretation was twisted, And he ultimately said that he'll do medical exams with teams he visits for the draft. Quick side note, it's interesting that he decided to not, that he chose not to really compete and do all these competitions and skills challenge, all these skill displays, I guess would be the word to say, just not participating in all the activities for the combine, as he just simply said, well, there's no point in me doing this to have competition. So just look at the highlights, look at the tapes, then you'll get your information from there. Another college football guy on the defensive side, Alabama quarterback Kool-Aid McKinstry will not be working out the 2024 Combine due to foot injury. One of the top cornerbacks in the 2024 draft won't take part in Combine drills this week due to an injury that was discovered during his medical evaluation. Per NFL Network's Ian Rappaport, Alabama star Kool-Aid McKinstry will not be working out due to a Jones fracture in his right foot. Rappaport noted McKinstry will take part in Alabama's Pro Day later this month and get his foot fixed afterward to be 100% for the start of the NFL season. It's unclear when the injury occurred, though NFL.com's Kevin Patrick noted it can result from increased training or running on uneven surfaces. All I gotta say is I'm looking forward to seeing how well where he goes, because the name's cool, and being a quarterback, Cowboys need you, buddy. Cowboys need you, buddy. Come to Dallas, please, if you're there on the board. Moving on to basically what will be our final segment. Rule changes and updates across the league, as the league has a proposal for a rule change on intentional grounding due to its high rates in 2023. As NFL is prepared to propose this rule change, as the league intends to propose rule change on intentional grounding, as according to NFL's Network's Tom Pelissero, the proposal would be, quote, aimed at reducing fouls and protecting quarterbacks. Intentional grounding was called 59 times last season. According to the rulebook, intentional grounding is called when a passer facing an imminent loss of yardage because of pressure from the defense throws a forward pass without a realistic chance of completion. A realistic chance of completion is defined as a pass that is thrown in the direction of and lands in the vicinity of an originally eligible receiver. It's unclear how the rule would change, but it's not necessarily surprising the league wants to change it, as it's one of the most confusing rules in football. Sometimes officials call intentional grounding, other times they don't, even when it maybe should have been called. During Super Bowl 58 between the Chiefs and Niners, fans were ticked off when officials didn't call Patrick Mahomes for intentional grounding on a fourth quarter drive that resulted in the game being tied. And then with just over 9 minutes remaining in the fourth quarter, Mahomes stood in the pocket, threw the football over the NFL show that midfield no receivers in the area. It was textbook for intentional grounding, yet it wasn't called. So 2 missed calls in the Super Bowl on Patrick Mahomes. Maybe that's their way of saying they either weren't paying attention fully or they're protecting Mahomes, was what it would be interpreted as. I'm not saying it is, but it can be interpreted as that. And if the league changes the rule, expect intentional grounding calls to drop next year. And finally, for the NFL segment, NFL is going to be testing a new system to electronically measure first downs and replace chains. They're testing a system that measures first down officiating decisions electronically, as the technology would be used in place of first down chains to decide whether a player reached the line to gain. The league will now gauge the interest of teams and owners on whether to move forward with implementing the technology during games. It was also noted that the electronic system could be ready for use next season, but NFL Executive Vice VP of Football Operations, Troy Vincent, said the 2025 season is a more realistic date for extensive use of the system. According to Pro Football Talk's Michael David Smith, the technology the league is testing was developed by Hawkeye, the computer vision system used in tennis to assist with video replays. It would help get officials a more accurate read of the position of the ball and players when reviewing the line of game. Smith also reported that the league is testing the technology around the sidelines, goal lines, and end lines, as well as first down markers. Using technology to determine positioning has become commonplace in other sports, along with tennis. Many other soccer leagues, including FIFA, use a mix of cameras and trackers to determine offside penalties. What the league has advanced in the NFL, using chains to determine first downs seems outdated, and a change could finally be coming. Yeah, that's great. I'm happy that they're finally. How do I say this? I'm glad to see that they're making a change doing this with a lot of like missed first downs, a lot of just wrong calls. But the problem, like the downside, is what happens if they? What happens if the power goes out or something where they can't, or like there's problems with it, you know? Because I feel like there's gonna be problems if they do this. So yeah, that is definitely something to just think about per se.